I got you pregnant on purpose, so you won't run from me. You're mine now. The words hung in the air of Minjun's penthouse, like a death sentence. I stared at South Korea's most dangerous mafia boss, the man I'd been sleeping with for 3 months, the father of the baby growing inside me, and realized everything had been a lie. The birth control I'd been taking, replaced with vitamins. The passionate nights we'd shared, calculated traps. Every whispered, I love you, part of his plan to keep me from returning to New York. And the most terrifying part? Even knowing what he'd done, my heart was still racing, and it wasn't just from fear. 3 months ago, I was just an art curator from Brooklyn. Now I was carrying the child of a killer who'd orchestrated my entire pregnancy. This is the story of how I fell in love with the man who trapped me. The positive pregnancy test slipped from Amara's fingers and clattered onto the marble floor of Minjun's penthouse. She watched it spin once, twice, before landing face up, those two pink lines screaming at her like an accusation. But it wasn't the pregnancy that made her knees weak. It was the man standing across from her, his dark eyes gleaming with something that looked dangerously close to triumph, as he said the words that would haunt her forever. I got you pregnant on purpose, so you won't run from me. You're mine now. 3 months ago, Amara Washington was a successful art curator from Brooklyn, living her best life in Seoul for a gallery exhibition. Now she was staring at South Korea's most dangerous mafia boss, the father of her unborn child, realizing that every passionate night, every whispered promise, every moment she thought was love had been a calculated trap. And the terrifying part? Her heart was still racing, and it wasn't just from fear. Amara's voice came out as a whisper, broken and disbelieving. What did you just say? Minjun moved toward her with that predatory grace she'd always found intoxicating. He was dressed in all black, his tailored suit fitting him like a second skin, his dark hair pushed back from his face. He looked like sin incarnated, and God help her. Even now, even knowing what he'd done, her body still responded to his presence. You heard me perfectly, Amara. His voice was smooth, controlled, with that slight accent that made her name sound like a prayer. I've been planning this since the moment I saw you at the gallery opening. The birth control pills you've been taking? They were replaced with prenatal vitamins 6 weeks ago. The room spun. Amara grabbed the edge of his desk, her legs threatening to give out. You're lying. You're insane. This is necessary. He finished her sentence, closing the distance between them. She could smell his cologne now, that intoxicating blend of bergamot and something darker, something uniquely him. You were going to leave, Amara. Back to New York, back to your safe little life. I couldn't let that happen. So you trapped me? Her voice rose, anger finally breaking through the shock. You violated my trust, my body, my choices, and you think that's love? Minjun's jaw tightened, a flash of something raw crossing his features before his mask of control slipped back into place. Love. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Love is too weak a word for what I feel for you. Love is what ordinary men feel for ordinary women. What I feel for you is possession, obsession, a need so deep it physically hurts when you're not near me. That's not romantic, Minjun. That's psychotic. Maybe. He reached out, his fingers grazing her cheek, and she hated herself for the shiver that ran through her at his touch. But it's the truth. And deep down, you know you feel it too. The pull between us, it's not normal. It's never been normal. Amara slapped his hand away, tears burning in her eyes. I trusted you. I gave you everything. My body, my heart, my secrets. And you used that trust to trap me like some kind of animal. I trapped you because I'm a selfish bastard who couldn't bear the thought of losing you. His voice dropped to a rough whisper, and for the first time, she saw real vulnerability in his eyes. Do you know what it's like to watch the only good thing in your dark, violent life prepare to walk away? To know that once you leave, you'll realize how much better you deserve? I couldn't risk it, Amara. I couldn't risk you. So you took away my choice. She wrapped her arms around herself, feeling exposed despite being fully clothed. Do you even understand how violated I feel right now? How betrayed?
Ida.
He moved to pour himself a drink from the crystal decanter on his desk, his hand steady even though his voice had a slight tremor. And I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. But I won't apologize for ensuring you stay. I won't apologize for fighting for what's mine. I'm not yours. But even as she said it, the words felt hollow, because somewhere in the chaos of the last 3 months, she had become his. She'd fallen for this dangerous, complicated man in ways that terrified her. Minjun turned to face her fully, his expression softening in that way that only she ever got to see. Then why are you still standing here, Amara? Why haven't you run? The door is right there. My men have strict orders never to stop you if you want to leave. You could walk out right now, fly back to New York, and I'd never follow you. I'd let you go. You're lying. I'm not. He set down his glass and held out his hands, palms up, in a gesture of surrender. Test me. Walk out that door. I won't stop you. I'll have a car waiting downstairs to take you anywhere you want to go. Passport, money, everything you need, it's yours. Amara stared at him, her mind screaming at her to run, to get away from this madness. But her feet wouldn't move. Why? If I'm so important, if you went through all this trouble, why would you let me walk away now? Because I realized something when I saw your face just now, when you dropped that test. He took a step closer, and this time she didn't back away. Trapping you in a cage, even a golden one, means nothing if you hate me. I want you to choose me, Amara. Choose me knowing exactly who I am, what I've done, what I'm capable of. Choose me with your eyes wide open. Or don't choose me at all. That's not fair. Her voice broke. I'm pregnant with your child. You've already taken my choice away.
No.
His hand moved to her flat stomach, his touch gentle despite the intensity in his eyes. You can still choose. You can leave, have this baby in New York, and I'll support you both financially from a distance. I'll never interfere with your life. Or, he paused, his thumb tracing small circles over her shirt. You can stay. Be with me. Let me show you that despite how this started, what we have is real. That my methods were wrong, but my feelings never were. Amara's hand covered his, not pushing it away, just holding it there. She could feel her heart breaking and mending at the same time, could feel the war raging inside her between logic and emotion. I don't even know who you really are, Minjun. You're a mafia boss. You run an empire built on violence and crime. How can I bring a child into that world? Let me tell you who I am. His other hand cupped her face, forcing her to meet his gaze. And then you can decide if you stay or go. But I need you to hear the whole truth first. About me, about us, about how we got here. Will you give me that? One night to explain everything.
She should say no.
Every logical part of her brain was screaming at her to run, to get as far away from this beautiful, dangerous man as possible. But her heart, that traitorous organ in her chest, was whispering something different. It was reminding her of stolen moments in the rain, of laughter shared over midnight ramen, of the way he looked at her like she was the only thing in his world that mattered. It was reminding her that despite everything, despite the manipulation and the lies, there had been real moments between them, real feelings. One night, she finally said, pulling back from his touch before she lost her resolve completely. You have one night to make me understand, and then I decide. Minjun's eyes flashed with relief, so profound it almost made her softer toward him. Almost. One night. I'll tell you everything. How I became who I am, why I did what I did, and exactly what you mean to me. And if at the end of it, you still want to leave. He swallowed hard, the only sign of his distress. Then I'll let you go. Promise me. Amara demanded, her hand instinctively moving to her stomach where a tiny life was growing. Promise me you'll let me go if that's what I choose. I promise. He said it without hesitation, and she could see the truth of it in his eyes. But I'm also going to fight like hell to make you stay. And there it was. The challenge, the declaration, the promise of a battle between her head and her heart. Amara didn't know whether to laugh or cry, didn't know if she was making the biggest mistake of her life or the bravest decision. All she knew was that she needed answers. She needed to understand how she'd fallen for a man who'd orchestrated her pregnancy, like a military operation. Start talking then. She moved to the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked Seoul, the city lights blinking like fallen stars. Tell me everything, Minjun. And don't you dare leave anything out. Behind her, she heard him pour 2 glasses of water, heard his footsteps approach. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer, more vulnerable than she'd ever heard it. It starts 20 years ago, with a 12-year-old boy watching his mother die because she fell in love with the wrong man. Before we continue, can I ask you a question? Where in the world are you watching from? Comment below because we'd love to know how far these stories travel, and hit that subscribe button. Amara turned slowly to face him, watching as Minjun settled into the leather chair by the window, his glass of water untouched on the side table. The city lights cast shadows across his face, making him look younger, more vulnerable than the dangerous crime lord she knew him to be. My mother was a dancer, he began, his eyes distant, lost in memories that clearly still haunted him. Not the kind you're thinking. She was a traditional Korean dancer, graceful, elegant, absolutely mesmerizing on stage. My father saw her perform once and decided he had to have her. Not date her, not court her, have her, because that's what men in my family do. We take what we want. Is that supposed to make me feel better about what you did? Amara's voice was sharp, but she moved closer, drawn in despite herself.
No.
It's supposed to make you understand where I come from, the poison that runs in my blood. He looked up at her, and the pain in his eyes was so raw it made her chest ache. My father was the head of the Jade Serpent organization. You know what that means in Seoul's underworld. It means he was untouchable. It means he was a monster. Minjun's hands clenched into fists. He courted my mother for 3 months, showered her with gifts, made her believe he was a legitimate businessman. By the time she found out the truth, she was already pregnant with me. He gave her a choice that wasn't really a choice at all: marry him and live in luxury, or refuse him and watch her entire family suffer. Amara sat down in the chair across from him, her anger momentarily eclipsed by curiosity. She chose you. She chose survival. But she never let me forget what that choice cost her. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Every day, I watched her beautiful spirit dim a little more. She stayed for me, protected me from the worst of my father's world, but I could see her dying inside. And when I was 12, when my father brought home his mistress and installed her in our home like it was nothing, my mother finally broke. What happened? She tried to leave, packed a bag in the middle of the night, took my hand, and we ran. He stood abruptly, walking to the window, his back to her. We made it 3 blocks before his men found us. I watched them drag her back, watched my father beat her in front of me to teach us both a lesson about loyalty. And 3 days later, she took a bottle of sleeping pills because she couldn't live in that cage anymore. Amara's hand flew to her mouth, genuine shock rippling through her.
Yeah.
I found her. His voice was hollow now, mechanical, like he detached himself from the memory to survive telling it. I was the one who found her cold body in her bedroom, a note clutched in her hand that said, "I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to take you with me." Silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. Amara wanted to hate him, wanted to hold onto her anger, but she could feel it cracking under the weight of his pain. After she died, my father trained me to take over his empire, taught me that emotions were weakness, that love was a trap, that the only way to keep what's yours is through power and control. Minjun turned back to face her, and his eyes were glistening. I vowed I would never be like him. I would never force a woman to stay with me, never trap someone the way he trapped my mother. And then I met you. At the gallery opening. Amara remembered that night like it was yesterday, the way her entire world had shifted when their eyes met across the crowded room. 3 months ago, yes. I wasn't supposed to be there. I hate art openings, hate the pretentious crowd, but one of my business associates insisted I attend to meet a potential investor. He moved closer, kneeling in front of her chair, so they were at eye level. And then I saw you standing in front of that painting. You were wearing this emerald green dress, and you were crying. Actually, crying over a piece of art. It was a painting about a mother and daughter. Amara's voice softened at the memory. The artist had died before finishing it. The daughter had to complete it alone. You stood there for 20 minutes, just staring at it with tears running down your face. Everyone else was drinking champagne and networking, but you were genuinely moved by the story behind the art. And I thought, this woman is different. This woman feels things deeply. His hand reached out, hovering near her knee, but not touching. I couldn't take my eyes off you. I watched you move through the gallery, watched how you explained each piece to anyone who asked, the passion in your voice, the light in your eyes. And I knew I was in trouble. So, you decided to trap me? The anger was creeping back into her voice. Because you felt something, you thought you had the right to take away my choices?
No.
At first, I decided to stay away from you. He sat back on his heels, running a hand through his hair. I left the gallery without speaking to you. Told myself you were too good, too pure for my dark world. But then fate had other plans. The coffee shop. Amara remembered the second meeting, 2 days after the gallery opening. She'd been rushing to a meeting when she'd literally crashed into him, spilling her latte all over his expensive suit. You apologized about 50 times while trying to wipe coffee off my jacket with those tiny napkins. A small smile played at his lips, the first genuine expression she'd seen since this conversation started. Your hands were shaking, and you kept saying you'd pay for the dry cleaning, and I couldn't help myself. I asked you to dinner to make up for it. You asked me to dinner because I ruined your suit? I asked you to dinner because in that moment, with coffee all over both of us, you looked at me like I was just a man. Not a crime lord, not someone to fear, just a regular guy who'd had a clumsy encounter with a beautiful woman. Do you know how rare that is in my world? How precious. Amara's heart clenched despite herself. She remembered that dinner, how easy the conversation had flowed, how he'd made her laugh with stories that she now realized were probably carefully edited versions of his real life. You lied to me from the beginning. I did. He didn't try to deny it. I told you I was an import-export, which technically isn't a lie. I just left out what exactly I was importing and exporting. I wanted to be normal for you, Amara. For the first time in my life, I wanted to be just a man courting a woman he was falling for. And when did you decide to trap me? When did normal stop being enough?
Mignonnes expression darkened.
Week 6. You told me about the job offer in New York, how your gallery wanted you to head their new branch in Manhattan. You were so excited, talking about how it was your dream position, how you'd always wanted to move back home eventually. And I felt my mother's desperation for the first time. That suffocating panic of losing the only good thing in your life. So you replaced my birth control. Her voice was flat, emotionless. I spent 2 weeks trying to talk myself out of it. 2 weeks where I barely slept, where I kept thinking about my father and my mother and how I swore I'd never become him. He looked down at his hands. But I couldn't let you go, Amara. I tried. God, I tried. But every time I imagined you in New York, living your life without me, meeting someone better, someone who could give you a normal life, I felt like I couldn't breathe. So, you took the choice away from both of us. Amara stood, needing distance, needing air. You condemned our child to be born from manipulation and lies. I condemned our child to be born from desperation and obsession. Minjun stood too, his voice rising for the first time. You want me to say I'm sorry? I'm not. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I broke your trust, but I'm not sorry that baby exists. I'm not sorry that you're here, that you're carrying my child, that you're bound to me in a way that can't be undone. You're insane. But her hand moved protectively to her stomach, and they both noticed. I'm in love. He closed the distance between them in 2 strides, grabbing her shoulders. I'm so completely, desperately, pathetically in love with you that I destroyed everything I believed about myself just to keep you. Does that make me a monster? Probably. Does it make me my father? Maybe. But it also makes me a man who knows that some things are worth damning your soul for. Amara stared up at him, tears streaming down her face now, her emotions a tornado of rage and grief, and something she didn't want to name. You can't just love someone into submission, Minjun. That's not how this works. Then tell me how it works. His grip on her shoulders gentled, his thumbs brushing away her tears. Tell me how to make this right. Tell me what you need to hear, what you need to see, what you need from me to believe that despite how we got here, we belong together. I need time. Her voice cracked. I need space to think, to process, to figure out if I can ever trust you again. Time you have. Space I'll give you. But trust. He pressed his forehead to hers, his breath mingling with hers. Trust is something I'm going to have to earn back piece by piece. And I will, Amara. I'll spend every day proving that you and our child are my redemption, not my damnation. She wanted to push him away. She wanted to run. But she also wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that love could somehow justify or heal the violation he'd committed. What if I can't forgive you? What if I wake up every day resenting you and this baby? Then I'll live with that resentment. His lips brushed her forehead, featherlight, a prayer or a plea. As long as I get to live with you. Are you Team Minjun or Team Run Far Away? Drop a like if this story is messing with your emotions as much as it's messing with mine, and comment whether you think love can ever justify what he did. Don't forget to subscribe. The tension in the room was suffocating, electric, dangerous. Amara pulled back from Minjun's touch, wrapping her arms around herself like armor. She needed to think, needed clarity, but her mind was a war zone of conflicting emotions. I need to know something, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. That night, 3 weeks ago, when you told me you loved me for the first time. She paused, heat flooding her cheeks at the memory. When we were together, and you looked me in the eyes and said I was your everything. Did you know then? Did you already know I was pregnant? Minjun's jaw clenched, and she had her answer before he even spoke. Yes. Oh God. She turned away, nausea rolling through her that had nothing to do with morning sickness. So even that moment, even that beautiful, perfect moment was built on a lie. It wasn't a lie. He moved behind her, but didn't touch her. Every word I said that night was true. You are my everything, Amara. You're the only light in my darkness, the only thing that makes me want to be better than what I am. But you weren't better. She spun to face him, anger giving her strength. You were worse. You manipulated me, controlled me, and then made love to me while knowing you'd violated my body in the most fundamental way. I made love to you. His voice was rough, raw with emotion, while terrified that you'd find out and leave me. While knowing that I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. And yes, I was a coward for not telling you immediately, but I was also a man drowning in the first real feeling I'd had since my mother died. Don't use your trauma as an excuse. Amara's voice was sharp. Plenty of people have difficult childhoods and don't become manipulative criminals. You're right. He held up his hands in surrender. You're absolutely right. My past explains my actions, but doesn't excuse them. But if we're laying all the cards on the table, I need you to answer something honestly too. What? That night, when I told you I loved you, what did you say back? Amara's breath caught. She remembered that night in vivid detail. They'd been in his bed, tangled in silk sheets, the city lights painting patterns on their skin. He'd traced her face like he was memorizing it, and when he'd whispered those 3 words, she'd felt her entire world shift. I said it back, she admitted quietly. I told you I loved you too. And did you mean it? The question hung in the air between them, loaded with implications. Amara wanted to lie, wanted to wound him the way he'd wounded her, but she'd never been good at dishonesty.
Yes.
I meant it. Do you still? That's not fair. She shook her head, fresh tears threatening. You can't ask me that right now. You can't expect me to untangle my feelings when I just found out my entire relationship has been built on deception. Not your entire relationship. Minjun moved closer, his movements slow, careful, like approaching a wounded animal. The deception started 6 weeks ago, Amara. But we've been together for 3 months. That first month and a half, before I made the worst decision of my life, that was real. Every conversation, every laugh, every touch, that was genuine. Was it?
She challenged.
Or were you already planning this? Already calculating how to trap me? I was falling in love with you. His hand reached out, cupping her face with a gentleness that contradicted everything she knew about him. And that terrified me more than any rival gang, any police investigation, any threat I've ever faced. Because I knew, even then, that loving you was going to destroy me, one way or another. Against her better judgment, Amara leaned into his touch for just a moment, letting herself feel the warmth of his palm against her skin. Why me, Minjun? There are thousands of beautiful women in Seoul. Women who understand your world, who wouldn't flinch at what you do. Why fixate on me? Because you cried over art. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Because you apologized to my bodyguard when you accidentally stepped on his foot at the restaurant. Because you spent 2 hours helping an old woman carry her groceries home even though you were late for our date. Because you're good, Amara. Pure in a way that has nothing to do with innocence and everything to do with choice. You choose kindness in a world that doesn't reward it. You choose compassion when apathy would be easier. And I thought maybe, if someone like you could love someone like me, maybe I wasn't completely damned. That's not fair. Her voice broke. You can't say things like that when I'm trying to hate you. I don't want you to hate me. His forehead pressed against hers again, and she could feel him trembling. I want you to see me, really see me, and choose me anyway. Not because of the baby, not because I trapped you, but because somewhere in this mess, you still feel what I feel. And what do you feel, Minjun? Really? He pulled back just enough to look into her eyes, and what she saw there stole her breath. It was hunger and devotion and desperation all tangled together into something that looked almost like worship. I feel like I've been walking through darkness my entire life, and then you appeared like a sunrise I didn't believe in anymore. I feel like every terrible thing I've ever done was leading me to you, like you're my punishment and my salvation all at once. His voice dropped to a whisper. I feel like if you leave, I'll spend the rest of my life as a ghost, going through the motions but never really living again. That's what I feel. Amara closed her eyes against the intensity of his gaze, against the way his words were chipping away at her resolve. You can't love someone and violate them like this. Those two things can't coexist. Can't they? His hands framed her face now, forcing her to look at him. People do terrible things for love every day, Amara. They lie, they manipulate, they hold on too tight because the thought of letting go is more painful than any physical wound. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's human. It's toxic. But even as she said it, her hands were fisting in his shirt, holding him close instead of pushing him away. Maybe. His lips brushed her forehead, then her temple, then the corner of her mouth. But so is nicotine, and people still crave it. So is alcohol, and people still drink. Toxicity doesn't negate desire, Amara. Sometimes it amplifies it. Stop. She pressed her hands against his chest, but there was no force behind it. Stop making this sound romantic when it's actually insane. Then tell me you don't feel it too. His breath was hot against her ear, his voice a rough challenge. Tell me that these 3 months meant nothing. Tell me that when we're together, when I touch you, when I look at you like you're the only person in the world, you don't feel like you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Tell me that, and I'll let you go right now. Amara opened her mouth to say exactly that, to end this twisted conversation and walk away with her dignity intact. But the words wouldn't come, because he was right, and she hated him for it. She hated that despite everything, despite the manipulation and the lies and the violation of her trust, there was still a part of her that responded to him, that craved him, that loved him even when she desperately wanted not to. I hate you, she whispered instead, her voice breaking on the words. I know. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her against his chest, and she let him. Hate me all you want, Amara. Hate me for the rest of our lives if you need to. But don't leave. Please don't leave. They stood like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other in the middle of his luxurious penthouse, both of them broken in different ways, both of them terrified of what came next. And then Amara pulled back, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. I need you to tell me about your world, she said, her voice stronger now. Not the sanitized version you've been feeding me. The real version. If I'm going to consider staying, if I'm going to consider raising a child in your world, I need to know exactly what that means. Minjun's expression shifted, becoming guarded. Amara, some things are better left unknown.
No.
She straightened her spine, channeling every ounce of strength she had left. No more secrets, Minjun. No more protecting me from reality. You want me to choose you? Then show me exactly who you are, what you do, and let me make an informed decision. He studied her for a long moment, something like respect flickering in his eyes. You might not like what you see. I already don't like what I've seen. But I need the whole truth. starting with what exactly the Jade Serpent organization does. Minjun moved to pour himself something stronger than water this time, his movements deliberate as he measured out expensive whiskey. The Jade Serpent controls most of the underground economy in Seoul. Gambling, protection, some pharmaceutical distribution, real estate development through shell corporations, and information brokering. Drugs? Amara felt her stomach turn. You sell drugs? We move prescription medications to people who can't afford them through legal channels. He took a sip of his drink. I'm not claiming nobility, but we don't touch street drugs. No heroin, no meth, nothing that destroys lives for profit. Just everything else that's illegal. Yes. He didn't try to sugarcoat it. Just everything else. We also provide protection to businesses in territories where the police can't or won't help. We settle disputes that would otherwise turn violent. We're not saints, Amara, but we're also not the monsters you're imagining. Have you killed people? The question came out before she could stop it, and the silence that followed was answer enough. When he finally spoke, his voice was flat, emotionless. Yes. How many? Does it matter? 1 or 100, the stain is the same. Amara felt like she was going to be sick. This was really happening. She was standing in the penthouse of a killer, carrying his child, having this insane conversation like it was normal. Who were they? The people you killed. Threats to my organization. Traitors who sold information to rivals. One man who hurt a child under my protection. His eyes met hers, and she saw no remorse there, just cold acceptance. I won't lie and tell you I feel guilty. In my world, mercy is weakness, and weakness gets you killed. Every person I've eliminated was a strategic necessity. Oh God. She sank into the nearest chair, the full weight of her situation crushing down on her. I'm in love with a murderer. You're in love with a man who operates in shades of gray you were privileged enough never to see. He knelt in front of her again, his hands on her knees. The world isn't black and white, Amara. The legal system fails people every day. Police corruption lets monsters walk free while innocent people suffer. I operate outside the law, yes, but I also protect people the law has forgotten. That's a convenient rationalization. It's the truth. His grip tightened slightly. 3 months ago, a rival gang tried to move into our territory. They were trafficking women, girls as young as 14, forcing them into prostitution. The police knew, but couldn't prove it. So I handled it. You killed them. I freed 23 girls and made sure those men never hurt anyone again. Yes, I killed them. And I'd do it again, without hesitation. Amara stared at him, trying to reconcile the man who'd held her tenderly in the dark with the man confessing to murder, without flinching. How am I supposed to process this? How am I supposed to raise a child knowing their father is capable of taking lives? The same way millions of military families do it. His voice was gentle but firm. I protect what's mine, Amara. I eliminate threats. And now you and our child are what's mine. No one will ever hurt you. No one will ever touch you. I'll burn this city to the ground before I let harm come to either of you. That doesn't comfort me the way you think it does. But her hands covered his on her knees, holding them there. It terrifies me. Good. His expression was serious. Fear will keep you safe. Fear will keep you cautious. In my world, the people who aren't afraid are the first ones to die. So let me ask you something. Could you stay with someone like Minjun? Could you love a man who kills to protect? Drop your honest answer in the comments and smash that like button if you're as conflicted as Amara is right now. The next words out of Amara's mouth surprised even herself. I want to see it. Minjun's head snapped up, confusion crossing his features. See what? Your world. Not just hear about it from the safety of this penthouse. If I'm going to make a real decision, I need to see what my life would actually look like. What our child's life would look like. She stood, pulling her hands from his.
Show me, Minjun.
Take me into your world. Absolutely not. He rose to his feet, his expression hardening. It's dangerous, Amara. You're pregnant. I can't risk. You don't get to make that choice for me anymore. Her voice was steel. You already made one choice for me without my consent. You don't get another. Either you show me your world tonight, right now, or this conversation ends and I walk out that door. They stared at each other, a battle of wills playing out in the charged silence. Finally, Minjun's shoulders dropped in resignation.
Fine.
But you stay by my side every second. You do exactly what I say when I say it. And if I tell you we're leaving, we leave. Agreed. Agreed. 20 minutes later, they were in the back of Minjun's armored SUV, two of his men in the front, driving through the neon-lit streets of Seoul's underground. Amara watched the city transform as they moved further from the tourist districts, the glittering facade giving way to something grittier, more real. Where are we going? She asked, studying his profile in the flickering lights. To one of my establishments. A club called Venom. It's where I conduct most of my business meetings. He glanced at her, concern flickering in his eyes. Last chance to turn back. Keep driving. Venom was not what she expected. The exterior was understated, just a black door with a small jade serpent emblem. But the moment they stepped inside, Amara felt like she'd entered another world entirely. The club was all dark luxury, black marble and emerald accents, with private booths lining the walls and a central bar that looked like it belonged in a five-star hotel. But it was the people that caught her attention. Beautiful women in designer dresses, men in expensive suits, everyone moving with a purpose that spoke of power and danger. And the moment Minjun entered, the entire atmosphere shifted. Conversations paused. Heads turned. Respect, and something that looked like fear, rippled through the crowd. Mr. Park. A tall man approached, bowing slightly. We weren't expecting you tonight. I'm showing someone important around Taeyang. Minjun's hand found the small of Amara's back, proprietary and protective. Clear the VIP section, and bring me tonight's reports. Of course, sir. As they moved through the club, Amara noticed how people parted for them like water, how eyes followed but never quite met Minjun's directly. She saw transactions happening in shadowed corners, money and small packages changing hands with practiced discretion. This wasn't just a club. It was a command center. The VIP section was on the second floor, glass walls overlooking the club below. The moment they sat, Taeyang appeared with an iPad and several manila folders. The West District numbers are up 15%, he reported, all business. The Jung family paid their protection fee early, but there's been some resistance from the new restaurant owner on Hongdae Street. What kind of resistance? Minjun's voice was casual, but Amara felt him tense beside her. He thinks he doesn't need our protection. Claims he has police connections. Does he? Minor ones. Nothing that would actually protect him if Park Sung's crew decided to make trouble. Minjun was quiet for a moment, his fingers drumming on the table. Send Ji-hoon to talk to him. Explain the reality of the situation. If he still refuses, we pull our protection from that block for 1 week. Let him see what happens when we're not watching. And if something does happen to him, then we step in, handle it, and he pays double for the next 6 months for wasting my time. He glanced at Amara, whose face must have shown her shock.
What?
You thought I'd have him killed for refusing protection.
I don't know what I thought.
Most of my business is exactly what I told you. Protection, mediation, keeping order where the police can't or won't. Violence is a last resort, not a first option. He turned back to Taeyang. What else? They went through several more reports, and Amara listened, fascinated despite herself. It was like watching a CEO run a corporation, except the business was crime and the stakes were life and death. But she also noticed something else. When Taeyang mentioned a family struggling to pay because their son needed surgery, Minjun immediately authorized a loan that everyone in the room knew would never be collected. When someone reported vandalism at a shop under his protection, his rage was genuine and immediate. Find who did it, he ordered, his voice cold. And make it very clear that businesses under my protection are untouchable. I don't care if it was drunk college kids or rival gang members.
Make it clear.
After Taeyang left, Amara turned to Minjun, her emotions a tangled mess. You forgave that family's debt. They have enough problems without owing me money. And you were genuinely angry about the vandalism. Those people pay me for protection. If I can't provide it, I don't deserve their money or their trust. He poured himself another drink. You're looking at me like you're surprised. I am surprised. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? A monster who revels in violence. Maybe. She accepted the water he handed her. But what I'm seeing is complicated. You're running a business that happens to be illegal, but you actually seem to care about the people under your protection. Of course I care. He sounded almost offended. These are my people, Amara. My territory. I was born in these streets, raised in this world. These restaurant owners and shopkeepers, they're not just revenue streams. They're my responsibility. Before she could respond, the door burst open and a young woman stumbled in, her face tear-streaked and bruised. Mr. Park, please, I need help. Minjun was on his feet instantly, Amara forgotten as he moved to the woman. Hannah? What happened? It's my boyfriend, Jaesung. He's been dealing for the Red Phoenix gang, and now he owes them money he doesn't have. They're going to kill him, Mr. Park. Please, I know he's been stupid. I know he disrespected your territory rules. But please don't let them kill him.
Emma watched Minun's expression carefully.
She saw the calculation happening behind his eyes, the weighing of consequences and responsibilities. Where is he now? At his apartment. They're coming for him in an hour. Why come to me? Why not the police? Because the police don't care about people like us. Hannah's voice broke. And because despite what everyone says, you're the only one who might actually help. Minjun was quiet for a long moment, then he turned to his bodyguard. Get Jaesung. Bring him to the warehouse on Pier 7. And send word to the Red Phoenix that if they want their money, they negotiate with me, not some scared kid. Sir, getting involved with Red Phoenix over a rule breaker could start. I know what it could start. Minjun's voice was hard. Do it anyway. Hannah collapsed in relief, sobbing her thanks. Minjun called for someone to take her somewhere safe, then turned back to Amara, his expression unreadable. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. Yes, I did. That boy is an idiot, but he doesn't deserve to die for being young and stupid. He moved back to sit beside her. This is my world, Amara. It's not always pretty, and the lines between right and wrong are blurry at best. But I try to be better than the alternatives. I try to be better than my father. You're risking a gang war for one person. I'm establishing that my people are off limits, no matter what they've done. It's about precedent, about power, about making sure other gangs know they can't just execute someone in my territory without consequences. He took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. But you're right. There's also a part of me that just couldn't let that woman leave here without hope. That couldn't be the man who turned away someone asking for help. Amara squeezed his hand, her emotions in chaos. You're making this very difficult. Making what difficult? Hating you. Leaving you. Making the clean, clear choice I thought I came here to make. She turned to face him fully. I wanted you to be a monster, Minjun. I wanted you to be so clearly evil that walking away would be easy. But you're not that simple. I'm not evil, but I'm not good either. His free hand cupped her face. I'm just a man trying to survive in a world where mercy is dangerous and love is a weakness I can't afford. Except when it comes to you. When it comes to you, I'm weak in ways that terrify me. Show me more, she said suddenly. Show me everything. The good, the bad, the parts you think will make me run. I need to see it all. Amara.
No.
You wanted honesty? You wanted me to choose with my eyes open? Then open them all the way. Show me the darkness. Minjun, show me what loving you really means. He studied her for a long moment, something like pride mixing with concern in his expression. You're sure?
I'm terrified.
But I'm sure. He nodded slowly, then pulled out his phone. Then we're going to the pier. You're going to see me negotiate with the Red Phoenix. You're going to see how deals are made in my world, how power is balanced on the edge of a knife. And if at any point it's too much, you tell me, and we leave immediately. I will. She stood, squaring her shoulders. Let's go. The drive to the pier was tense and silent. Amara could feel Minjun's anxiety radiating off him in waves, could see the way his jaw clenched and unclenched as they got closer to their destination. When they arrived, there were already cars there, expensive vehicles with tinted windows that screamed danger. These are not good people we're meeting, Minjun said as they parked. The Red Phoenix are old school, brutal, and they don't respect women. If any of them speak to you, don't engage. If any of them touch you, stay calm. I'll handle it. And if things go wrong, then you run. Dong Hyun will get you out. He gestured to one of his men. But it won't come to that. They exited the car and walked toward an old warehouse, the kind of location that appeared in every crime movie Amara had ever seen. Inside, 3 men waited, all dressed in expensive suits, all radiating menace. The leader, a man with silver hair and cold eyes, smiled when he saw Min-jun.
Park Min-yun.
I wondered when you'd interfere in matters that don't concern you. When it happens in my territory, it concerns me. Min-jun's voice was level, controlled. The boy owes you money. Name your price and I'll pay it. Then this matter is settled. The price isn't about money anymore. It's about respect. The man's eyes slid to Amara, and something predatory entered his gaze. He dealt drugs in your territory, without permission. That's an insult to us both. Which is why I'll handle his punishment.
But he doesn't die.
Not in my territory. Not on my watch. And what makes you think you can dictate terms to us? The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Min-jun took a step forward, and suddenly he was every inch the dangerous crime lord she'd been trying to see. Because I'm offering you a peaceful resolution. But if you'd prefer war, if you want to test whether the jade serpent still has fangs, then by all means, refuse my offer. See what happens. This standoff lasted an eternity. Amara held her breath, watching these men play chess with human lives, watching Min-jun balance on the knife's edge between peace and violence. And then the Red Phoenix leader laughed. Your father would never have negotiated. He would have sent us the boy's head and started a war just to prove he could. I'm not my father.
No.
You're softer. Some might say weaker. His eyes flicked to Amara again. Love does that to a man. Love makes a man choose his battles wisely. Rage makes him fight them all and lose everything that matters. Min-jun pulled out a briefcase, setting it on the table between them. 2 million won. More than enough to cover the debt and the insult. Take it, and we continue our respective businesses without interference. Refuse it, and we see whose organization is still standing in 6 months. Another long silence. Then the man nodded, taking the briefcase. The boy lives. But make sure he understands the price you paid for his stupidity. I will. As the Red Phoenix crew left, Amara finally released the breath she'd been holding. Min-jun turned to her, and she saw the strain in his eyes, the weight of what he'd just done. That was terrifying, she admitted. That was me trying to avoid bloodshed. He moved to her, checking her over like he expected her to be injured just from witnessing the confrontation. Are you okay? I don't know. She was shaking, adrenaline crashing through her system. But I saw you, Min-jun, really saw you. The way you controlled that room, the way you chose mercy when violence would have been easier. I saw who you really are. And I'm still terrified. But I'm also... She paused, searching for the right words. I'm also starting to understand why you did what you did. Why you couldn't let me go. His arms wrapped around her, and she let him hold her, let herself feel safe in the embrace of a dangerous man. Because that was the twisted truth of it all. Despite everything, despite the manipulation and the lies and the violence she'd just witnessed, she felt safer with Min-jun than she'd ever felt in her life. Take me home, she whispered against his chest. Not to your penthouse. To our home. Because if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to choose you, I need to know what our life together would actually look like. Min-jun pulled back, hope and disbelief warring in his expression. Our home. I haven't decided yet. But I need to see it. Need to imagine it. Need to know if I can really live in your world and still be myself. She met his eyes. Can you give me that? Can you show me a future where this somehow works? Yes. The word was fervent, desperate, grateful. Yes, I'll show you everything. I'll give you everything. Just don't leave, Amara. Whatever you decide, just don't leave tonight. I won't. And as she said it, she realized it was true. For better or worse, for one more night at least, she was choosing to stay. The drive to what Min-jun called home took them to an exclusive neighborhood in Gangnam where modern architecture met traditional Korean aesthetics. The house was stunning, a three-story masterpiece of glass and wood that somehow managed to feel both imposing and welcoming. But what caught Amara's breath was the private garden visible through the windows, complete with a koi pond and cherry blossom trees. "You live here?" she asked as they pulled through the security gate. "I own it, but I've never lived here." Minjun helped her out of the car, his hand lingering on hers. "I bought it 8 years ago. Kept telling myself someday I'd meet someone worth sharing it with. After I met you, I had it renovated. Everything inside is new, chosen with you in mind." Amara's heart clenched. "You renovated an entire house for someone you've been dating for 3 months." "I renovated a home for the woman I knew I'd spend my life with." He led her to the front door, punching in a security code. Whether you believed it yet or not, the interior was breathtaking. Modern furnishings mixed with traditional Korean art, floor-to-ceiling windows that brought the garden inside, a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a cooking show. But it was the small details that broke her heart. Fresh flowers in her favorite colors, books by authors she'd mentioned loving, a painting from the gallery where they'd first met, the one of the mother and daughter that had made her cry. She moved through the space, touching things with trembling fingers. "This is too much." He followed behind her, anxiety clear in his voice. "I know I might have gone overboard, but I wanted you to feel like this could be yours. Like this could be ours." "It's perfect." The words came out choked. "And that's what makes this so hard. You've built me a dream home. You fight for people who can't fight for themselves. You show me tenderness I didn't know existed. But you also manipulated me in the worst possible way. How am I supposed to reconcile those two versions of you?" "Maybe you're not supposed to reconcile them." He moved closer, his presence overwhelming in the quiet house. "Maybe you're supposed to accept that people are complicated, that I can be both the man who'd burn the world for you and the man who'd do terrible things to keep you. Both versions are real, Amara. Both versions are me." She turned to face him, tears streaming freely now. "I want to hate you so badly. I want to be strong enough to walk away, to raise this baby alone, to never forgive you for what you did. But I love you." The confession tore out of her like it had been ripped from her soul. "I love you so much it physically hurts. I love you even though I shouldn't, even though every rational part of my brain is screaming that I'm making a mistake. And I hate myself for being this weak." "You're not weak." Minjun closed the distance between them, his hands framing her face with a gentleness that contradicted everything he was. "Loving someone who's hurt you, choosing to see past their mistakes to who they really are, that takes more strength than walking away ever could. Or it makes me a fool." She laughed bitterly through her tears. "The kind of woman who stays with a man who violated her trust because he says pretty words and makes her feel things she's never felt before. Then I'm a fool too." His forehead pressed against hers. "A fool who threw away his principles, his self-respect, and possibly your love. All because the thought of losing you is more terrifying than becoming the monster I swore I'd never be." They stood like that for a long moment, breathing the same air, both of them broken and desperate and terrified. And then Amara pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Show me the rest of the house. Show me where our child would grow up if I stay." Minjun's eyes flashed with hope so intense it almost hurt to look at. He took her hand, leading her through each room, and with each space, Amara felt her resistance crumbling a little more. The nursery destroyed her. It was painted in soft neutrals, neither definitively masculine nor feminine, with a crib that looked like it cost more than her first car. But it was the mural on the wall that broke her. A beautiful painting of cherry blossoms and stars, with a small figure that looked suspiciously like her standing beneath them, looking up at the sky. "When did you have this painted?" Her voice was barely a whisper. 3 weeks ago, when I knew for sure you were pregnant." He stood behind her, not touching but close enough that she could feel his warmth. "The artist asked what I wanted, and I told him to paint hope, to paint the future I was praying for." "Minjun, this is..." She couldn't finish the sentence, emotion overwhelming her. "This is our baby's room, if you let it be. This is where I'd read bedtime stories, where you'd rock them to sleep, where we'd stand together at 3 in the morning wondering how something so small could be so perfect." His voice was rough with unshed tears. This is the future I stole from you, the right to choose freely. And I'll regret that for the rest of my life. But I'll never regret the future itself. Amara turned to him, and something shifted in that moment. Some walls she'd been maintaining crumbled. Some resistance she'd been clinging to dissolved. I need you to promise me something. Anything. No more lies. No more manipulation. No more making decisions for me without my consent. If I stay, if I choose this life with you, I need to be your partner, not your possession.
Can you give me that?
Yes. The word was immediate, fervent. Yes, I swear it. No more secrets, no more control. You'll know everything about my business, everything about my world. And every decision we make together. Even if I tell you to leave your organization, to go legitimate. He was quiet for a moment, and she appreciated the honesty of his hesitation. I can't leave completely. Too many people depend on me. Too many territories would fall to worse people if I stepped away. But I can transition to legitimate businesses over time. I can reduce my involvement in anything that makes you uncomfortable. I can be better, Amara. For you, for our child, I can be better. That's all I'm asking. She moved closer, her hand coming to rest on his chest, feeling his heart racing beneath her palm. Not perfection, not sainthood, just the real you, trying to be better. You're staying. It wasn't a question, but there was wonder in his voice, like he couldn't quite believe it.
I'm terrified.
I'm probably making the biggest mistake of my life, but yes, I'm staying. She looked up at him, seeing him clearly for the first time all night. Because despite everything, despite the manipulation and the lies and the absolute insanity of this situation, you're it for me, Minjun. You're the person I think about when I wake up, the person I want to share everything with, the person who makes me feel alive in ways I didn't know I could feel. His control finally broke. Minjun kissed her like a drowning man finding air, like a sinner finding grace, like a man who'd been given something he didn't deserve and couldn't quite believe was real. And Amara kissed him back with equal desperation, equal need, equal gratitude for this impossible second chance. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. I don't deserve you. No, you don't. She smiled through her tears. But you're going to spend the rest of your life earning me anyway. Every single day. His hands slid to her stomach, protective and reverent. I'm going to be the best father, the best partner, the best version of myself I can possibly be. I'm going to make you proud, Amara. I'm going to make our child proud. You're going to make mistakes. She covered his hands with hers. We both are. This isn't going to be easy, Minjun. There are going to be days I resent you, days I question this decision, days I wonder if I'm crazy for staying. And on those days, I'll remind you why you chose me. I'll show you that despite how we started, despite my mistakes, this is real. What we have is real. He kissed her forehead, then her nose, then her lips again, soft and sweet. I love you, Amara Washington. I love you with everything I am and everything I'll ever be. I love you too. The words came easier this time, truth settling into her bones. God help me, I love you too. They stood in the nursery, wrapped in each other, both of them damaged and dangerous and desperately in love. And as the soul sunrise began painting the sky outside the windows, Amara felt something she hadn't felt since seeing that positive pregnancy test. She felt hope. But their moment was interrupted by Minjun's phone ringing, the sharp sound cutting through their bubble of peace. He pulled it out, frowning at the screen. It's Taeyong. It must be important if he's calling at this hour. He answered, his body immediately tensing at whatever he heard.
When?
How many? I'll be there in 20 minutes. What's wrong? Amara asked as he hung up. Minjun's expression was grim. The Red Phoenix didn't honor our agreement. They sent men to Jae-sung's apartment anyway, killed him and his girlfriend. They're sending me a message that they don't respect my authority anymore. Amara felt ice flood her veins. The woman who came to you for help, Hannah?
Dead.
The word was flat, emotionless, but she could see the rage burning in his eyes. They killed her to make a point. And now I have to respond, or every gang in Seoul will think the Jade Serpent has lost its bite. What are you going to do? He looked at her, and she saw the monster and the man warring in his expression. What I have to do, what my position demands. I'm going to show them exactly why you don't betray agreements with me.
Minhyun, no.
You just promised me no more violence, no more. This isn't a choice, Samara. His voice was harder now, the crime lord emerging. This is survival.
If I don't respond, more people will die.
More innocent people who come to me for protection will be murdered because everyone will know my promises mean nothing. So, you're going to start a war? You're going to kill more people? She pulled away from him, fear and anger mixing. This is exactly what I was afraid of. This is my world. He grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. This is the reality of loving me. Sometimes I have to do terrible things to prevent worse things from happening. Sometimes mercy is the cruelest option. Do you understand?
No.
She shook her head. I understand that a young couple is dead because they trusted you to protect them. I understand that now you're going to kill more people in retaliation. And I understand that this cycle of violence never ends. You're right. His grip gentlened. It doesn't end. Not in my world. But it can be managed, controlled, directed at those who deserve it rather than innocents. And that's what I do, Amara. I'm not a good man, but I'm better than the alternatives. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was wrong, but she'd seen his world tonight. She'd seen how fragile the peace was, how quickly violence could erupt. What happens now? Now I go handle this. And you stay here, safe, protected by my best men. He kissed her forehead. And then I come home to you and our baby, and we figure out how to build a life in the space between the darkness and the light. I don't want you to go. The admission was whispered, ashamed. I don't want you to do this. I know. He pulled her close one more time. But this is who I am, Amara. The man who'll hold you tenderly and the man who'll destroy anyone who threatens what's mine. You said you wanted the real me, eyes wide open. This is part of that reality. Promise me you'll come back. She clung to him, fear overriding pride. Promise me you won't die tonight leaving me alone with our baby. I promise. He tilted her face up, his eyes intense. Nothing in this world could keep me from coming back to you. Wait for me, Amara. Trust me one more time. She nodded, not trusting her voice, and watched him leave, his men falling into formation around him. And as the door closed behind him, Amara sank to the floor of the nursery, her hand on her stomach, wondering if she'd just made the best decision of her life or condemned herself and her child to a future of heartbreak and violence. Outside, the sun continued rising over Seoul, painting everything in shades of gold and red. Beautiful and violent, just like the man she'd chosen to love. Just like the life she'd agreed to build with him. And all she could do was wait, hope, and pray that love would be enough to survive the darkness that came with it. Are you still team Amara should stay, or are you screaming at your screen for her to run? Drop a comment with your honest reaction to her decision. The hours that followed were the longest of Amara's life. She sat in that beautiful house, surrounded by luxury and promise, while somewhere in Seoul, the man she loved was doing things she couldn't let herself imagine. Minjun's men, Donghyun and two others, stood guard like silent sentinels, their presence both comforting and terrifying. She must have dozed off on the couch because she woke to the sound of the front door opening. Her heart leaped, but it wasn't Minjun who entered. It was Taeyong, his expression grave, and her world tilted. Where is he? The question came out as a whisper. Is he alive? He's alive. Taeyong's voice was carefully neutral. But there were complications. He sent me to bring you to him. Complications? What kind of complications? Is he hurt? Amara was on her feet, adrenaline flooding her system. He's at his office at Venom. He insisted I bring you immediately. Taeyong wouldn't meet her eyes. Please, Ms. Washington. We need to go now. The drive back to the club felt like it took forever and no time at all. Amara's mind raced through possibilities, each one worse than the last. When they finally arrived, Taeyong led her not to the VIP section but to a private office on the third floor she hadn't seen before. Minjun stood by the window, his back to the door, still wearing the same clothes from earlier, but now they were rumpled, and there was something that looked suspiciously like blood on his sleeve. When he turned at the sound of her entrance, She saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight of whatever he'd done sitting heavy on his shoulders. "You're bleeding." She moved to him immediately, reaching for his arm, but he pulled back. "It's not mine." His voice was hollow, distant. "Most of it isn't mine, anyway." "Most of it." She grabbed his arm anyway, pushing up his sleeve to reveal a nasty cut along his forearm. "You need stitches." "It's fine." "It's not fine." She was already looking around for a first aid kit, found one in his desk drawer.
Sit down.
"Let me take care of this." "Amara, I didn't bring you here to play nurse." But he sat anyway, letting her examine the wound. "Then why did you bring me here?" She cleaned the cut carefully, her hands steady, even though her heart was racing. "And what happened tonight?" Minjun was quiet for a long moment as she worked. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw. "I killed 7 men tonight. The Red Phoenix leadership, who ordered the hit on Jae-sung and Hannah. I made it clear that betraying agreements with the Jade Serpent has consequences." Amara's hands stilled on his arm. 7 men. 7 lives ended because of a cycle of violence and revenge that never stopped. And now there will likely be retaliation. The Red Phoenix will either come for me directly, or they'll accept the new power balance. Either way, I've made enemies who won't forget. He looked up at her, his eyes searching. "I need you to understand what that means, Amara. It means our child will grow up with bodyguards. It means you'll never walk through Seoul without protection. It means living with the constant awareness that my choices have made you a target." "I know." She finished bandaging his arm, her movements mechanical. "I've been thinking about it all night, actually, about what staying with you really means." His body tensed. And I'm terrified." She moved to stand in front of him, her hands on his knees. "I'm terrified of raising a child in your world. I'm terrified of losing you to violence. I'm terrified that one day our son or daughter will ask me how daddy and mommy met, and I'll have to decide between lying or telling them their father trapped me with a pregnancy because he couldn't bear to let me go. Amara. But I'm more terrified of a life without you." The words rushed out, truth she'd been holding back. "I'm more terrified of wondering what if, of raising this baby alone while missing you every single day, of never feeling the way you make me feel ever again. So yes, I'm staying, but on my terms now." Hope flickered in his exhausted eyes. "What terms?" "First, you transition out of the violent side of your business within 2 years. I don't care if you still run protection rackets or gambling operations, but I won't raise our child around constant bloodshed. Find successors, delegate the dangerous work, become more of an administrator than an enforcer." "I can do that." He nodded immediately. "What else?" "Second, you start seeing a therapist. Both of us will, actually. Because we're both carrying trauma that we can't unpack alone, and if we're going to make this work, we need professional help." "A therapist?" He looked skeptical. "Amara, I can't tell a therapist about my business." "Then find one who works with people in your world. I know they exist. The Yakuza use them, the Triads use them. Find someone who understands and can help you process your guilt over your mother, your fear of becoming your father, all the things you bury so deep you think I don't see them." He was quiet, then nodded slowly. "Okay, what else?" "Third, our child grows up with choices you and I never had. They don't get forced into your organization. They don't inherit your empire unless they actively want it. And if they choose to be an artist or a teacher or anything else, you support them without reservation. I can promise that." His hands covered hers on his knees. "Our child will be free in ways I never was." And finally, she took a deep breath. "You marry me. Not because of the baby, not because you trapped me, but because we choose each other every single day. We choose this complicated, messy, dangerous love over and over again until we're old and gray and still making everyone around us uncomfortable with how much we adore each other." Minjun's expression cracked, emotion flooding through. "Are you proposing to me? I'm telling you what I need if I'm going to build a life with you. Do you accept my terms?" Instead of answering, he pulled her down into his lap, his arms wrapping around her like he'd never let go. "I accept. All of it. Every single term. And I'll add one of my own." "What's that?" "No more secrets between us. Ever. You want to know about my business? I tell you, You want to know where I am, what I'm doing, who I'm meeting? I tell you, complete transparency. Even when the truth is ugly. Even when it's ugly. She agreed, settling into his embrace. We face the ugly together. They sat like that for a long moment, both of them broken and healing, both of them damaged and desperately in love. And then Amara pulled back, studying his face in the dim office light. I need you to understand something, Minjun. I'm choosing you, but I'm also choosing myself. I'm not going to lose who I am to become the perfect mafia wife. I'm still going to work, still going to have opinions about your business, still going to push back when I think you're wrong. Good. He smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes for the first time that night. I don't want a silent, obedient partner. I want you, Amara. All of you. Your strength, your defiance, your moral compass that keeps me from becoming my worst self. Don't ever change that. Then you need to understand that I'm going to challenge you. Constantly. About your methods, your choices, the way you handle conflicts. Just because I'm staying doesn't mean I agree with everything you do. I'm counting on it. His hand moved to her stomach again. This baby is going to have the strongest, most stubborn, most ethically complicated parents in all of Seoul. Poor kid doesn't stand a chance of being normal. Normal is overrated. He kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. Our child is going to be extraordinary, just like their mother. Amara melted into the kiss, letting herself feel the full weight of her decision. She was staying with a man who'd violated her trust in the worst possible way. A man who killed people, who ran a criminal empire, who operated in moral gray zones she didn't fully understand. But she was also staying with a man who looked at her like she'd hung the moon, who fought for people who couldn't fight for themselves, who was willing to change his entire life because she asked him to. When they finally broke apart, she rested her head on his shoulder. Tell me we're going to be okay. Tell me this insane decision isn't going to destroy us. I can't promise we'll be okay all the time. His arms tightened around her. We're going to fight, we're going to struggle, we're going to have days where we question everything. But I can promise that I'll fight for us every single day. I'll fight for you, for our baby, for the life we're building together. And I'll never, ever trap you again. You stay because you want to or you don't stay at all. I want to stay. The words were easier now, truth settling into certainty. God help me, I want to stay. Then marry me. He shifted, pulling her around to face him fully. Not someday, not eventually. Marry me next week. Let me make this official before you change your mind and realize you're too good for me. Next week. She laughed, the sound watery but genuine. Minjun, that's insane. Everything about us is insane. Why should our wedding be any different? He cupped her face, his thumbs brushing away tears she hadn't realized were falling. I don't want to waste another day without you being my wife. Without everyone knowing that you chose me, that somehow I got lucky enough to deserve your love. You don't deserve it. But she was smiling, her heart full despite everything. But you're going to earn it every single day for the rest of our lives. Is that a yes? That's a yes. She kissed him again, sealing the promise. But I get to plan it. And it's going to be beautiful and slightly unconventional and probably make your organized crime associates very uncomfortable. I wouldn't have it any other way. His smile was blinding, joy radiating from him in a way she'd never seen before. You're going to be my wife. You're going to be the mother of my child. You're going to be my partner in every possible way. And you're going to be my husband. The complicated, dangerous, surprisingly tender man I fell in love with despite my better judgment. She settled back against his chest, exhaustion finally catching up to her. We're really doing this, aren't we? We're really doing this. He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. We're building something beautiful out of something broken. We're choosing love even when logic says we shouldn't. We're proving that maybe, just maybe, redemption is possible for everyone. They stayed like that as dawn broke over Seoul for the second time, wrapped in each other in Minjun's office, both of them changed by the night they'd survived. Outside, the city was waking up, millions of people starting their normal, uncomplicated days. But inside that office, two broken people were building something new. Something that shouldn't work, but somehow did. 6 months later, Amara stood in front of a mirror, her hand on her now visible baby bump, wearing a simple white dress that made her feel like a princess. The wedding was small, intimate, just close friends and a carefully selected group of Minjun's most trusted associates. Her sister had flown in from New York, shocked but supportive when Amara had explained everything. "You're sure about this?" her sister asked, adjusting Amara's veil. "It's not too late to run. I'm sure." And she was. The last 6 months had been complicated, difficult, and sometimes terrifying. But they'd also been filled with therapy sessions where they unpacked their trauma together, with Minjun slowly transitioning power to trusted lieutenants, with building a life that was theirs alone.
He's it for me, Maya.
For better or worse. "Then let's get you married to your Mafia boss." Maya smiled, tears in her eyes. "Mom would think you're insane, but she'd also understand. Love makes us do crazy things." The ceremony was in the garden of their home, under the cherry blossom trees that were just beginning to bloom. And when Amara walked down the aisle to where Minjun waited, looking devastating in a traditional Korean suit, she felt nothing but certainty. He trapped her with a pregnancy, violated her trust, and shown her a world of violence and moral complexity she'd never imagined. But he'd also loved her with a ferocity that took her breath away, changed his entire life because she asked him to, and given her a love story that was messy and imperfect and absolutely real. As they exchanged vows, promising to choose each other every day despite their complicated beginning, Amara felt their baby kick for the first time. She grabbed Minjun's hand, placing it on her stomach so he could feel it too, and watched his face transform with wonder. "Our child." His voice was thick with emotion. "Our future. Our second chance." She corrected, her own tears flowing freely. "For both of us." And as he kissed her, sealing their impossible union, Amara knew she'd made the right choice. Not the easy choice, not the safe choice, but the right one. Because love wasn't supposed to be simple. It was supposed to challenge you, change you, make you better than you thought you could be. And Minjun did all of that and more. Their story wasn't a fairy tale. It was complicated and messy and full of moral gray zones. But it was theirs, built on honesty and hard work and the choice to love each other despite everything that said they shouldn't. And sometimes that was enough. Sometimes that was everything. 3 years later, Amara sat in her art gallery, the one Minjun had helped her open in the heart of Seoul, watching their daughter play with building blocks in the corner of her office. Jiwoo was perfect, with her father's dark eyes and her mother's stubborn chin, already showing signs of the strong-willed personality she'd inherited from both parents. Minjun had kept his promises. He transitioned almost entirely to legitimate businesses, still maintaining enough control to protect their interests, but no longer directly involved in violence. They'd been through therapy, worked through their issues, built a partnership based on trust and transparency. It wasn't always easy. There were still hard days, still moments when Amara wondered if she'd made a mistake. But there were more good days than bad, more moments of joy than regret, more reasons to stay than to leave. And when Minjun walked into her office that afternoon, scooping up their daughter and spinning her around while she giggled with delight, Amara knew she'd made the right choice. "I got you pregnant on purpose, so you won't run from me. You're mine now." Those words that had started it all still echoed sometimes in her mind. But now they were overlaid with new memories. "I choose you. I love you. Thank you for staying. Thank you for saving me from becoming my father." Their story had started with manipulation and control, but it had become something else entirely. It had become a testament to the power of choice, of growth, of loving someone enough to be better than you thought you could be. And as Amara watched her husband and daughter together, as she felt the flutter of their second child growing inside her, she smiled. Because this was her life now. Complicated, unconventional, sometimes terrifying, but absolutely, completely, perfectly hers. And she wouldn't change a single thing. The impossible love story of Amara and Minjun. A story that started with manipulation but became something real through choice and commitment. What do you think? Could you forgive someone like Minjun? Could you build a life with someone who trapped you but genuinely loved you? Drop your final thoughts in the comments, and if this story made you feel all the things, hit that like button and subscribe for more emotionally devastating romance stories. And hey, if you made it all the way to the end, comment "I stayed," so I know you were with us through this entire wild ride. Thank you for watching, and remember, love isn't always simple, but sometimes it's worth fighting for anyway.